Alrighty, hello everyone. Today I'm going to do a video about how the price increases from the luxury fashion houses can actually benefit you. Alrighty, so if you're new here, my name is Tia and I do all kinds of videos about luxury and particularly how to put your luxury goods to use in a colder climate. So if you're into that kind of thing, I would love it if you could subscribe and then let me know in the comments so I can come and say hello. So today's video is something that I wanted to make sure got out kind of amidst all of the talk about the price increase. So today is January 7th and last night, pretty late, we did see a bunch of price increases from Louis Vuitton. So as life would have it, I didn't have time to get this filmed during the day, so I apologize for the artificial light, but we're just gonna roll with it. So when I first started shopping in the luxury boutiques, I had no idea that price increases were a thing. And then in the fall, I remember looking at a pair of shoes and looking at them again, and then all of a sudden, they were like $90 more. And I was like, what? And when I went and talked to everybody, they're like, oh yeah, this happens like twice a year. And I was shocked. I thought, oh my gosh, this is the most ridiculous thing. It's the same product. How can they justify it? And I actually got like a little bit irritated and I was like, I'm not even gonna buy from these places anymore. And I did not get it. I was like, I'm just gonna buy this pair of shoes because I really wanted it. And then I couldn't really get my head around it until I started looking at the pre-loved market. And I saw that all of these bags were a crazy price used. And I was like, what the heck? How is this even possible? And so the more I learned about it, the more I came to understand that yes, price increases are a reliable fact. And if you want to shop at these places, that's the reality. And so first of all, the reason I'm making this video, it's definitely my opinion, and so take it at that, but I think that whenever something is just a reality, we may as well spin it in a way that is valuable to us. So what I mean by that is a lot of these items on the pre-loved market that you would have bought for X amount, I started doing comparisons, and most of the things that I've bought in the past, not from luxury boutiques and stuff, you're taking a massive hit when you're reselling. So I'll be honest with you, I kind of thought that like my bags would sell for maybe $250 despite having put like $1,500 plus into them. And I was so very wrong about that. So if you haven't had the chance to look into the pre-loved market, I will summarize it for you with the idea that it's worth a lot more than you'd expect. So I remember looking at the Neverfulls, and in my area, they were about like $19.20 before tax, Canadian dollars, and used, a lot of them were like $1,800. And I'm like, what? So what I realize is when you're buying these products, yes, as a buyer looking to make a purchase after a price increase, it can kind of be a little hard to swallow. However, for those of you who already own the items, it can actually be pretty helpful for you. And so the way I like to look at it, and it's not a perfect formula at all, but that these price increases allow the value of my items to stay relatively high, and definitely not the exact same amount that I paid for it, but prevents it from taking those massive hits that's just basically money down the drain, because the amount I wear it and it'll start looking a little bit more used, the price increases help to compensate for that. So what I started doing when I found out about this is I kind of backtracked all my purchases. So I'm a pretty type A kind of person, so I actually made a spreadsheet about it, and I have a whole gain-loss kind of calculation on there, so I can track, okay, I spent X amount, and how does that compare to what it is new now? So I'm gonna grab my computer, and I wanted to go through it with you because this last price increase, my Louis Vuitton collection is definitely growing and definitely something that I enjoy and have invested in, but it is by no means like astronomical or anything like that. And I believe this price increase made it so that my collection went up in value about $500. So again, these calculations I'm talking about are not perfect, and there's way more that goes into it. If you spill a coffee on your bag, well, you might be in some hot water. But just in general, I think it's worth thinking about. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by talking about the items that I already have and how their price has changed. And so in general, there's lots of videos on YouTube about more long-term changes. A lot of these items I bought just before this price increase. Only a few of mine have seen 2 price increases, but I just think it's something to keep in mind, because I know when I first found out about it, yeah, I was not a happy camper. So I'm gonna grab my computer, and I'm just going to tell you guys a little bit about kind of what changed in my collection. And then you can do with that information what you wish. So I'm gonna open up the spreadsheet here. And I will say, to a certain extent, I did get pretty lucky with this price increase because it just kind of happened to really impact the items that I already have. However, I am going to later compare it to the impact it had on my wish list. So maybe we can start to get an idea of, yes, these price increases seem crazy, but maybe we're looking at it more holistically than it is relevant to us. So unless you're planning on buying out every Louis Vuitton item possible, it's probably going to have a less sizable impact on your future purchases than it will your current ones. It's kind of how I have decided to look at it. So let's start with my Capucine's wallet. So this one was purchased at $11.30 Canadian, and it did not see an increase in this price increase, but it did on the last one. So this is one of my earlier items. So that one went up $50. And then the Louis Vuitton key pouch I just purchased a couple months ago. That one went from $270 to $320, another $50. So I'm looking at these as gains rather than future losses. And then the next one is the Louis Vuitton mini pochette. So I bought that one again just a couple months ago, and this went from $420 to $515 Canadian dollars, which means that it went up $95. So as somebody who might want to buy another one, that $95 is tough to swallow. But in terms of my current collection, it just went up that much. The next one was a pretty small one. So the Neo Noe, which was my last Louis Vuitton purchase, that one went up only $30. So relative to the price of the bag, that was pretty inconsequential. And then the Neverfull I bought for $19.20, and that one went up $50 to $19.70. And then the one that shocked me the most was the pochette accessoire or accessory. So that one went from $825 to $1,030. So we saw a $205 increase on that one, which is pretty wild. So I am looking at the last item here, which is my Louis Vuitton silk scarf, and that one again didn't get hit with this price increase, but I've had it for a while. So that one I purchased for $675, and it is now $725. So when I look at that entire kind of list, I am about $500 better off than I was yesterday. So that's just something to keep in mind in terms of how you're looking at it. And it means that something that kind of had some wear on it and would have been below retail might be coming up to retail that I paid for it because of the increases. So I like to put a positive spin on things, so that's my positive spin. I am very curious to see the next Gucci increase, because those of you who have watched my channel know that that is very much so also my jam, if not potentially even more at some points, particularly with shoes. So I am expecting to see probably like some more sizable increases over the next couple months that absolutely offset the increases I'm going to be seeing on my next purchases over the next few months. So one that I did want to mention isn't Louis Vuitton, but the slides, so the Gucci slides with the canvas kind of strip on them. Those ones actually went up quite a bit. So they went up $65. So I paid $350 and they are now, or sorry, I paid $390 and they are now $455. So when I'm looking at those sneakers, the slides, they look pretty brand new when I wash them. And now shoes are kind of a different story with resale, but that helps it so that if down the road I'm not in a position where I want to have this amount invested in bags, I consider it, I've heard this on other YouTube channels, like an asset rather than an investment. So I don't necessarily expect to get more than I paid, but I do not foresee, if I were to sell a lot of these items 2 years or 4 years down the road, that I would be taking a massive loss on them. So this is more a video for people who maybe are in a position where they can buy it, but like myself, I still have degrees to get done and things like that, and a life that I need to set up. And so rather than just having it sit in savings, I do get to use it and look at it, but I do consider it a relatively safe investment, again, personal opinion, compared to just letting it sit there. So right now our interest rates in Canada are shockingly low. So again, I'm looking at it in that sense, and it's like I've made way more on my purchases from Louis Vuitton alone than I would have having almost all of my savings sitting in an account right now. So something to keep in mind. And I do want to then talk about the impact that this had on my wish list. So perhaps this is because I got lucky, but I was very, very pleasantly surprised going through my wish list and seeing that most of it has stayed the same. So there's going to be an element of luck. Maybe the stuff that you had didn't get hit this round. But one of the big items that I genuinely thought I was going to see like a $200 price increase on was the Pochette Matisse in the reverse monogram. So this bag has been super popular. It's been increased and increased in previous years from what I've seen online. And so I kind of figured when I had heard that it was going to be on those monogram items that this one was gonna be a tough pill to swallow. And I had actually said to somebody, like, this was already kind of teetering on a thing where I'm like, is that even worth it? But it only, and I'm gonna say only because of the context we're talking about, my little $800 pochette went up $200. The reverse monogram Matisse only went up $60. So in the grand scheme of things, relatively speaking, percentage wise, that was a much smaller increase than I was expecting. And then beyond that, like the other stuff I have on my wish list right now really didn't change much. So I do want to note that the monogram Matisse did go up a lot more. So it was previously $100 less than the reverse monogram one, and now they are the same. So it did see a big increase, but again, like, luck. So a few other items I did want to mention because they really didn't get hit hard. There's a pair of shoes from Louis Vuitton, the front row sneaker. They're just the monogram ones, but I do quite like them. Those stayed the same. I have been looking at the Empreinte bum bag in the kind of cream color. That one didn't change to the best of my knowledge. The Serene bags I've been looking at, or Seren, whatever we want to call it, those didn't change. The Keepall Bandoulière, I've been looking at the one with the Macassar leather, so the monogram with the black. I definitely expected that one to go up, and it was another one where I was kind of looking at it and I'm like, okay, that's probably not the smartest thing to buy for that amount of money, particularly if it was about to get increased, and it stayed the same. The one item that was like half on my wish list, half not, that I've been waffling over is the multi-pochette. And I had actually, before the price increases, taken it off my wish list because looking at it, I'm like, you know what? I can't do it. So it was at around $2,400, I think, before, and it is now over $2,700. So that one saw a big increase. So in that sense, like I could factor that in, but that one is one that I'm like happy to let go of. But in the grand scheme of things, if I were to estimate kind of in the next 6 months how much the price increase changed the value of the products I want to be buying, it's probably like generously expecting myself to go off my intended path. And because I've been terrible with shopping recently, it is maybe $150, whereas in my collection, it went up $500. So there's so many factors that play into this, but I do think that it's something to keep in mind because I have been following the response to this on social media pretty quickly, and a lot of people are really angry about it. And so, you know, I don't like seeing people upset. I like to put a positive spin on things, but there's just more to it. And so I think that if you really digest all the elements of it, you can walk away with it with your own opinion. But just looking at it as like greed for the same item probably doesn't serve you, because chances are, and again, I can't speak for everybody, 2 months from now, you're gonna be like, yep, I'm buying it. So I would say that for those of you who like to analyze things in a little bit more depth and think about it, and I am obviously a little neurotic, given that I have a spreadsheet that does all these calculations and stuff for me. But yeah, that's just some kind of food for thought, and I did want to make this video sooner rather than later, just because it is current. But one thing I can share that I haven't shared, in total, my luxury collection, and again, I really only started growing this about 1.5 years ago, and that's being generous, has gone up about $1,370, and this is without the price increases that I would assume are coming from Burberry, and I feel like YSL may have had one. I could have written something down wrong, but I did notice that the small Lulu went up, but that's besides the point. Overall, looking at it, it helps me enjoy my bags, and I think that's a big thing, is that if you're investing in this, and if it matters to you, and if it brings you joy, why not spin it in a way that helps you do that? So when I look at my bags, I don't look at, oh, I could have bought this $200 less 2 years ago. Like, that kind of cyclic doubt and rumination just doesn't help anyone, in my opinion. So that is my first kind of chatty finance video. So if this kind of thing interests you, I am a thinker. I overthink everything. So if there's something you kind of want me to put a spin on, let me know, and I'm happy to do it. But yeah, I hope this kind of put any of you who maybe aren't sure how to approach it a little bit at ease. Maybe this is absolutely nothing new. I know these videos tend to be a slightly more polarizing because it's more about opinions than it is about, look at this gorgeous bag. But I do hope that it gave you something to think about. So I hope you all have a lovely evening. I typically do my videos in the day, so this is very strange for me. And I wish you all the happiest new year, and I will be back with another video sometime soon.